Live off the Mat Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Keith McMillan here with the Off the Mat Podcast, and I'm here with
Brian Harris. I'm here. John's here, but he's back going to the bathroom.
Yeah, he's doing his business right now, so just Brian and I for this moment.
Yeah, he'll be in here shortly. Let's talk about the UFC fights until John gets here.
All right, you pick a fight.
Okay.
Mind you, I didn't.
Okay, Connor Cowboy.
Connor. What do we expect? I mean, I think I called third round. I don't know in what world Cowboy was gonna beat. Cerrone, or Cowboy was gonna beat McGregor, but
yeah,
I didn't think it'd go that quick. It's sad to know. I mean, like they showed the whole fight on ESPN for highlights.
Yeah, I'm very adamant that that Donald didn't do anything. He didn't put in enough effort. So I don't know how much attention you were. Did you saw it? You said no.
Yeah, I saw that whole fight. They played it on.
I mean, it's 40 seconds. So
yeah, they played it on ESPN.
Yeah.
Only thing they blocked out was like,
dude, like everybody was so like impressed by those shoulder strikes. Like it's something that's revolutionary. And I understand that like he loaded it up, and yes, that's cool and all, but those shoulder strikes shouldn't have happened to begin with.
Like, you think they're illegal, or
no? Like, I think that Donald Cerrone accepted that position as a choice.
Okay,
he had an underhook and he had wrist control.
Right,
underhook on the right side, wrist control on the left side. He chose to be there. He chose to accept those shoulder strikes. He shouldn't have taken more than two.
At some point, though, I'm pretty sure in his head he probably was like, "There's no way this is gonna."
Yeah, I think he just froze in the moment is what it is, honestly. Because I mean, I think like those everything, he just froze. Like even with the head kick, like he just bent over and started defending. He wasn't even trying to do anything. John, you're more than welcome to roll on in. We just decided
it's kind of like foot
started.
stomps. Like when I see foot stomps, I'm like, that's not doing anything.
And that's another thing too. Is like shoulder strikes always happen up against the cage. They never happen in the middle of the octagon. Yeah. And yeah, he had an underhook and he had wrist control. He accepted that position. That was a choice.
Right. Okay.
In my opinion. John, what's your opinion on it? By the way, John OBrien here.
Hi, guys. This is John OBrien, the elusive John OBrien.
Yeah.
Elusive.
Well, we've been trying to get you on here for like 12 episodes.
Every episode, he's kind of like, next week, John OBrien.
Yeah, I'm a busy man.
We've been a busy man.
You're an active fighter. You're doing your thing.
This is true.
Real quick, thoughts on the fight since we're already on the subject. Let's get your thoughts, John.
I think Cowboy, I think it's done. Honestly.
You think it's like over for him?
Man, I just there's such a different like attitude about him, and like you can see it in his fights recently, like the way he's been performing against the power punchers. That I don't know. It's weird. You put him in a highlight spot like that, he takes one strike to the nose, and he's been known as this guy that's tough to the grill and everything like that. And he takes this one strike to the nose, and he almost folds. And you can't tell me he was rocked. Like, he broke his nose. Yeah. Like, without a doubt. He broke his nose. There's probably some orbital damage or something like that went down. And he gave up. Like, that's it. Like, you even look at the head kick, like, he's taking a foot to the jugular, which sucks. Like, don't get me wrong, taking a foot to the face blows ass, but it's not a shin.
But it's not something that's going to bend you over like that either.
No, and that's the thing. It's just like he could have moved. He could have. I've seen people take bigger shots. I've seen Cowboy take bigger shots.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. I think he's done. I think he's taken too much, and I think he's at this point in his career where he's just like, you know me, I'm same old Cowboy. I'll be back again. And it's like, why? I don't want to see you get beat up again, or go against go against somebody who's gonna like give you a tough fight, and then you somehow end up winning, and then everyone's like, there he is, Cowboy's back, and it's like, you're not back.
Yeah,
he's in that weird like Faber spot to where, and I know what just happened to Faber, but you know, it's like Faber is a world beater with anyone that's not a champion. I know what just happened with him. Don't get me wrong, but before
I have an opinion about Faber fighting.
But before that, anytime Faber went against like an up and coming prospect or the next coming, he would sleep him or submit him easily.
Yeah, and I hate the mentality Cowboy had after the fight of, I just love fighting and I'll be back. And it's like, if you just love fighting, like I know guys who are fucking 2-14 as amateurs that love fighting, but they're 2-14. Like, just because you love fighting doesn't mean you're a good fighter. Like that, like anybody can go in there, go through the rile up to a fight, go take a few punches, and just be like, all right, now I'm kind of done trying, which I think was the case with him. Like, he loves fighting for sure, but like, not everyone loves getting beat up.
No.
Right.
No. Yeah, that's not a fun thing. That's interesting that you think he's going to retire, because that didn't even cross my mind. But like, now that you're saying it, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
I don't think he's going to
I don't think he's going to retire. I don't think he's smart enough to.
Yeah,
like, I don't think he's smart enough to. I think
he should.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I think he should have retired a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got the mentality to win.
Even like
anymore.
people like talking about him potentially going for a title fight, even like the past like 2-3 years. Like, since people have been talking about that the past 2-3 years, once it first got brought up, I was like, really? Like, I don't see that happening.
He's an awesome fighter. He has so many records, but I think the Cowboy story will always be the same.
Yeah.
He has some highlight reel finishes, and he's a game opponent. He's that awesome, Cowboy that you can call up on 2 days' notice, and he's going to take that fight.
The Cowboy that fought Mike Perry wasn't a spectacular Cowboy. Like, he just happened to win that night.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't look at that and be like, that's a different Cowboy.
And you know what sucks too about fighters that are like past their prime? It's like, like the Donald Cerrone's, the Uriah Fabers. It's like, the longer that they stay on that road of like continuing to push on and like try and fight and like push their career, the more likely you are to become the next BJ Penn.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
For
sure.
Which nobody wants to be that guy anymore.
Hey,
Because that went south real quick.
Cowboy would be a dope Bellator fighter.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. I almost think Eddie Alvarez was like could have been put into that same pool. Like he just didn't need to be in the UFC anymore. Like he's a talented fighter, but like he does not provide anything to the like actual competitive scene of the welterweight or lightweight divisions of the UFC. Like, I really wish Conor hadn't have fought him, because the only reason why Conor fought him was to say, hey, I'm relevant again.
Yeah.
Like that. Like Dana White knows that. He knows it wasn't
champ.
a competitive bout. It was just, you're going to go in here, you're going to finish this guy. He's got a name. People get excited about him. Woohoo. You're going to get the finish, and then everyone's going to be like, Conor's back. Now we can put you back into the competitive scene. Like, they're not going to bring Conor back to the competitive scene right out the get. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That was like, to me, that was like a preliminary bout, like a, what do you call it?
What, like
when
Tune-up
the
fight?
bout doesn't like count. You know what I'm talking
Exhibition?
about? An exhibition. That was an exhibition fight. Like the same with the Diaz Masvidal. Like that had no impact on the competitive scene of the 170-pound division. Like, it was exciting, sure, but like, what does
as
that
far
have
as, like,
to actually
title shots
say?
and
Yeah.
rankings and things
I mean,
like
that's
that,
just
it was irrelevant.
capitalizing off the marketing and fame.
Like, and that's just like, which is like, you got to have that when you're a business, but like, for me as a fight fan, I'm just seeing
It's kind of bothersome, isn't it?
yeah, they're pushing away from like what MMA is supposed to be, which is like, who's the baddest guy in here?
Yeah.
And now they're like, let's put some highlight on who's kind of cool and can talk real well, and
But
then
we
also
knew
throw
that.
some punches.
We knew that with like when WME took over, with them
Yeah.
bringing back, Brock Lesnar, and every fight was like this, this kind of someone that was like ranked 9th, but they had a name, was all, fighting. And remember when they were pushing Paige?
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate.
Bro,
Yeah.
like, look at CM Punk.
Right,
You
that's
know what
true
I mean?
too,
That's
yeah.
a prime example right there.
Yeah.
Like, that guy didn't know how to fight, but he had a name, so they threw him in there. So,
Well,
I would almost go to say that if you look into things like ONE FC is almost more competitive.
dude, they're
than the
doing it
UFC.
right.
Yes.
Not necessarily the fact that they have a better talent pool. They're just more competitive.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch ONE FC. Like, all of their fights are exciting.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy what ONE FC is doing,
I
because
do,
they
yeah.
like, the more they push to like more weight classes and more of a competitive scene, the more pressure that's going to put on the UFC to adapt.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the UFC is just going to try to push this money-making method, and after a while, you're going to lose your superstars,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then you're going to lose your profit, and then the UFC will fizzle out, and all of a sudden, ONE FC is the new UFC.
That would be fascinating.
That would be hard to do.
That would be
it'd
for
be-
sure. But
Yeah.
like, that's if the UFC doesn't. No, I don't want to even say innovate, but doesn't like adapt.
Yeah.
and realize like, hey, you guys are becoming an actual sport right now. Like the Super Bowl isn't won by the most popular team. It's won by the best team. Now they can make money off of this highlight story like the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Like they can make money off that, but they're not going to like dictate the competitive scene of the NFL based on Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. It's all in the advertising. I think the UFC has a lot to learn in terms of advertising.
One thing that we've learned though from the UFC as far as business goes is they've been spectacular of absorbing any competition before it gets too big for them to mess with.
This is true, which I think is going to be harder now that you get things like ONE FC, because you're going to have those guys that are like, forget the fame, forget the whatever. Like, I just want to fight real guys, and you're going to have these people who are starting to look up to the UFC as like this sham show with money behind it. And like, screw that, I'm going to ONE. I'm gonna go fight real competition. I'm gonna go.
It's crazy too. Is like the people, like the UFC fighters that have gone to ONE FC too. Is like they're not. It's not easy for them. Like they got some real fucking fights on their hands.
I think with my American mindset, I think Mighty Mouse is the only one that's like proven like, see, he was the best.
Yeah.
But like, because
it's a more.
Super
he didn't
Sage
have
loss.
any. It wasn't a walk in the park for him.
No.
But yeah, you're right. He still did, like, in my mind too. I agree. He's still the best.
But Super Sage lost, and then
Brutally.
Definitively, yeah. Like,
he's out.
Yeah.
And then we just talked about him. Eddie.
Yep.
Lost his first match.
Brutally as well.
Yeah. You know, is that the only talent they have from us? I know there's other American fighters in that organization.
There's probably some like smaller names we don't realize that are dropping out of the UFC.
I think didn't Rory just sign with them? Didn't that happen?
No, I thought he went to PFL.
That's what it was. Yeah, he went to PFL.
Yeah, he went to
That's
PFL.
Right. Yeah,
I would love to see him in ONE.
I would. Yeah, I would too. I would too.
And
He'd have to change weight classes though, because they just go off of hydration tests.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
That's aggressive.
I like that though. I like the whole hydration test thing, because if you can get everybody on board with it, like, think about it, John. Like
the issue I have with it is they're making hydration tests and all these rules based off of what they see within weight cutting science right now, and they're not expecting or planning for weight cutting science to progress. Like, you look at some of the new weight cut specialists and the science they have behind it, like, they have such a rooted understanding of how the body works that, like, they know how to make this safe. It's just the science isn't all the way there yet. So they're seeing a problem and not realizing that the fix doesn't come from, like, not approaching it at all. The fix comes from approaching how the fighter goes about it.
But then how do you regulate that? That's the thing,
No, that's
though.
completely
like, you
true.
can't regulate
It's-
a fighter and be like, you have to do your weight cut like this.
It's a really complex issue, and I think it comes from, like, a lot of guess and trial work, which, like, though, like, the UFC is 25 years old or whatever it is, like, it's still young. Like, it.
Well, yeah, 25 years.
It hasn't
That's not old.
It hasn't had its time to develop these, like, what would you call it? Aspects of it that people don't really think about when it comes to fighting. You think, oh, it's just punching and kicking, but it's like, no, we got the weight cut. Now we got the advertising. Now we got the home life. All these other concepts,
media, all that stuff.
Yeah, which like isn't thought out yet, because these are new problems popping up that weren't really like no one really predicted them happening. So it's like, oh, we got to fix these now.
Yeah.
Do we know if this was ever a big thing in boxing? Because, I mean, obviously the most popular fighters normally in the past eras, with the exception of a few, were always heavyweights. I guess they would never have an issue making weight. But I can't think of a time that Roy Jones or, like, you know, Marvin Hagler or someone, like, missed weight.
Well, there's way more weight classes in boxing.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah.
It's like
So the
riddled
issue
with
isn't
weight
as
classes.
I think, like, that's one thing I really am getting excited about. Like,
I wish they added more in the UFC.
ONE FC is doing is their workaround for the problem isn't hydration tests, you can't cut this much. It's let's make it more viable to go to these safer weight classes for you rather than restricting you from others.
Well, they're the ONE FC. They're doing hydration tests and they're doing more weight classes too. So they have more weight classes, and the hydration tests they do, it's like, I want to say it's like, I don't know what it is, honestly. I would give a number, but I would just be pulling it out of my ass. But it's something where you can still cut water. It's just like you can't cut like a fuckload of water, you know?
Yeah, and I like the issue with like the psychology behind hydration tests is they're looking at a problem of, people are getting hurt or their careers are getting damaged because of the amount of weight they're cutting, and they're saying, well, it's because they want to cut that much weight. They don't want to cut that much weight.
No,
it's just you have somebody who's undersized for 70 but too big for 55, but they're like, hey, I'd rather go through the hell of cutting weight to make 55. And it's like, if you throw some magic number in the middle, like 65, and then push 70 to 75, they're going to be like, wow, that's right where I need to be. I'm going to have to cut a little bit of weight, but it's safer. And now we're adding a new competitive scene to this now 3-pronged weight class system. Right. Rather than saying, oh, you can't cut that much weight, because now they're like, well, I guess I have to now get bigger and go to 70. And now you have somebody who's trying to put on more muscle mass to go to 70, and they're going to get hurt anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you didn't solve the problem. You just solved the issue of people getting hurt from weight cuts. There's still a problem there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Weight cutting is a thing that's always, I don't know. It's a thing that's always going to be an issue, regardless. Like how much regulation you put on it. Like there's always going to be people that are looking for a competitive edge.
Out of your career, sure. have you had a dramatic weight cut?
The biggest weight cut I would say is when I went to 55. I started the week at, I want to say 178.
Okay.
On a Monday, and then by Thursday I was weighing anywhere between 69.5 and 71, and then I made it down to 56 flat with the 1 pound allowance that I had, which wasn't fun, but like the way that the people that were helping me through it was like I felt safe. I didn't feel in danger at any point. I never felt like I was like doing so much damage to my body that I wouldn't be able to recover from it, and I fought just fine. But like if I would have tried to cut weight any differently than that, I completely understand what people are talking about when they talk about the dangers of weight cutting.
How much did you weigh the day of the fight, or do you not want to give that up?
Almost 80, almost 180.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a little bit like, it didn't really help me much. Like it's mostly fluid,
I get that,
and I mean that fluid does play like a big role in like muscle potential and everything else when it comes to actual fighting. But I would say I'd say like the science behind hydration tests come from, well, at some point the fluids that you put back in aren't really like, they're neither here nor there. Like it's not really going to help you, but still, I mean, I want that competitive edge, because the guy I fought, he came in to the fight day at probably 65. That's 15 pounds of physical weight he has to now deal with.
Yeah.
So it happens. It happens for sure.
Well, we're here with John OBrien. I'm saying it again because you are now a professional.
I am, yeah.
You're legit a professional fighter. You're 1-0.
I am.
And
I was there on your pro debut. Keith missed it,
there.
just so you know.
Yeah,
you got a good view of my walkout.
I did.
Appreciated that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Same feelings and everything, like when you walked out to the cage, or like when did it hit you like, oh shit, I'm a pro now? Like
in the lead up, but even then, like I've been preparing so long for like the pro ranks that, and the amount of like work I did like in terms of like psychology of getting my body there and understanding to be at like real peace with the like nerves and feelings that you'll have. It felt honestly, I felt better going into my first pro fight than I have some of my amateur fights.
Okay.
It didn't feel any different. For me, with the way I fight and I guess you'd call it the style that I go at, elbows and knees benefit me a lot.
Yeah.
I feel. So getting to go in there and being like, okay, I got 5 minutes, which means if the other guy's got a cardio issue, that benefits me because I feel like my cardio is just fine. And then elbows and knees, you just gave me 2 more tools that I can use against you. Like, what's there to be nervous about?
Yeah.
Now, hearing your thoughts earlier about organizations and everything, what's your end game? Like if you, right now, and I'm not saying this is how it should be, but you have goals to ascend through the local scene and head into the mainstream. Is UFC even on your radar, or is it like, or would you accept like a 1FC?
The UFC is 100% on the radar.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's the UFC. Like, I don't have an infatuation with like having UFC on my like shorts one day.
Right.
It's the I would say like the UFC is just the domain name for what I'm aiming for, which is the largest fight platform available.
Right.
Like I want to be on the platform that gives me the most, not recognition. What would the word be? The most exposure.
Okay.
I'm looking. I like the reason why I fight is for the platform. Like I'm trying to build a platform to go off of, and at the same time, I love fighting. I love the complex problem that comes from two units now have to engage each other with this rule set of you either have to knock them out, submit them, or win via this criteria. Like it's an extremely complex problem that is so fun to try to solve day in, day out.
Right.
So, I mean, it's the platform and the enjoyment that I get from working through that problem.
Okay.
Do you find that with like one-on-one sports in general, or just specifically with like fighting? Because like whenever I wrestled like in high school growing up, like people always ask me like why'd I wrestle versus like playing baseball or football or something like that, and I was like, my thought process behind it all was, one, I grew up with an older brother, so I just like grappling, but two, it was the one-on-one aspect of it. It was like if something went wrong, like it was on me, you know. It wasn't like I could blame this guy because he didn't make this catch or he didn't throw the ball right or anything like that. Like I had my team to help me prepare, but at the end of the day, out there performing, it was all me.
Yeah, the psychology of a one-on-one sport is completely different from a team sport, which I hear a lot of people say differently, because people are like, well, when you're fighting, it is a team. Like you have to have your team and yada yada yada, which is a completely different like process in of itself. But when it comes down to it, it's your like will against theirs, like, and not even that. It's like your will against yourself, and knowing that the only person that is going to either benefit or be at a man, I'm running out of words today. Either benefit or be at the like a negative
disadvantage.
Yeah, disadvantage of it is yourself. Like you're either going to profit or not profit from your own output. So now you implement this insanely complex problem that is winning a fight, and then put yourself in there alone. Now you do have your cornermen who are this massive guide to how you do it, how you work through that problem, but it still is just you. And to me, that's a lot more engaging of a problem to solve. I love team sports. I love football. I played football. I don't really like basketball or baseball, but I still appreciate the problems that they also propose when it comes to like, how do you make an optimal unit that would solve these problems, that is winning a basketball game, winning a baseball game. But when it comes down to it, like wrestling, MMA, it's different. It's different. It's a lot more engaging. It's a lot more enjoyable.
It just forces you to be like mentally tough too. I mean,
you
don't have anybody else to rely on whenever you're in those moments. Like if you like for wrestling, like if you got someone on top of you trying to pin you, you got to figure it out. There's no one that's gonna pull them off of you except for the ref whenever you lose.
It's 100% you 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Like in football, like though everyone is, as best you can tell, putting in their max effort, like when it's a run play and you're a receiver on the opposite side of the field, like, all right,
you're just showing.
I'm watching so-and-so run down the field. There we go. Like it's different. I feel like the amount of engagement that you have to put in physically and psychologically is leaps ahead of a team sport.
Way more, for sure.
It was very thoughtful the way you put it, because obviously you're looking at it from a more scientific perspective when it comes to fighting and wrestling, and you putting all that together, because you know some idiots, you know, like I say, that go out there and fight, which is, and I'm one of them. When I think about going out there, I'm just like, I'll punch him in the face first, he goes down, and then I'll win. But you're looking at it from more of a technique, you know, technical standpoint.
It's a technical problem.
Yeah.
Like when you boil it down, it's unit A versus unit B, and now we're going to add rules and like the different abilities of punching, kicking, elbowing, now Connor with his shoulder strikes, and now you're just adding parameters which in that technical problem needs to be solved. And to me, if you're a fighter, like the closer you can get to the physical reality of the problem you're trying to solve, the easier it is to understand it. If you're just thinking about it as, you gotta have perseverance and you just gotta want it more.
Gotta dig deep.
Yeah, like you're
Don't
so
quit.
you're so far from the problem. Like that's why I feel like the cornermen that I train under, the coaching staff that I'm around, they, whether they know it or not, are approaching being a cornerman from such a technical point that instead of saying things like you can do it, your time, they're saying things like grab the wrist, pull here, shift your weight here, hips out, head here. Yeah, like they're giving you technical advice, not like emotional
deep,
advice.
Billy.
Yeah.
Wrap him up. He has, for the viewers that don't know, his corner is probably some of the best in the game. Grant Dawson and James Krause.
Without a doubt.
James Krause has a big. You could make an argument that James Krause probably could be coach of the year last year.
I'd say he's one of the best coaches the UFC's ever seen.
Yeah,
and he, I feel like, unless you're a coach that is trying to catch up with what he's doing, you're going to be left behind. I think he's going to revolutionize the way coaching's done in the UFC because of the way he approaches fighting, not from just the actual physical aspect of getting in there, punching and kicking, but everything down to like the psychology of what you're doing outside the fights.
Yeah,
what you're doing in the training, what you're doing outside of training at home, everything. Like he's approaching this from such a like well-developed angle that it's going to be hard to keep up with a guy like that. His mantra for this year is pace. And I'm sure he takes that at like every angle, business, life. And the one thing I can say, unless you're trying to match his pace as a coach, you're going to be left behind for years. And I feel like the fighters under him are just they're going to excel past everybody else unless they have a coach just like that.
it's crazy because I don't know if you would consider. Do you consider James Krause like an old school guy?
In what sense?
Just just the years he's put in. Like, would you consider like would you when we talk about fighters? Do you go, oh, he's from the old school? Because I feel like he has a new age technique.
He's from the old school that evolved with the sport.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say
There's
that was
coaches
like
that
the
just
cusp of the like Chuck Liddell era. That was like right as the old school was ending is when James came onto the scene. Because he's WEC days.
Yeah,
way back. But whenever people say old school, I think of like Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, like motherfuckers that don't know how to fight like motherfuckers
just go in the
today
room
do.
Well, they're still approaching the technical problem that is MMA from like how everyone was at the time.
Yeah.
Which was, you gotta want it. And like
Yeah.
I'm sure James had his fair share of guys around him saying, you gotta want it.
Oh, I'm sure
and
he did.
just kept chipping along with it. And
Yeah.
you can see like it come out with the way he coaches, with the way he fights, is like you have to evolve with this sport because it's so new. It's going to evolve so rapidly. And if you aren't, like, you will be left behind.
Yeah.
Like this sport will eat you up. That's why you have fighters in the UFC that are such athletes, have so much potential, that are failing because their coaching staff isn't evolving with the sport. Therefore, they aren't either.
right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that Anthony Johnson fight where he was losing to DC.
Yes.
And all his coach was saying was, "Don't quit, don't quit."
Mm-hmm.
So
God, that was bad, right?
yeah,
That's all they had for him.
that's all they had.
Yeah.
Not,
That's,
hey, slide the left leg out, or hey, his wrist, he's off balance. They just was like, "Don't quit."
Imagine if you take a guy like Anthony Rumble Johnson and you have a coach like James, like not even necessarily him, you just have somebody like him who's spending a year of time training with him, and then you get to the DC fight. Like, what does that fight look like?
Right.
Like, people want to say that, like, man, Rumble sucks. He doesn't suck necessarily. Like, it's just, you got to look at the experience he's had as a fighter and within his training and what outcome that had. Like,
Right.
there's so many specimens, so many athletes, so much potential out there that doesn't make it simply because of what they surround themselves with. Which, I mean, there's no fault to put on anybody. It's just like, that's the way it is. And I think as MMA starts evolving, those guys will get fizzled out, and you'll get more coaches that are approaching the technical problem that is MMA, as James is, and the sport's going to be different even in 3 years.
Right.
The way it was different 3 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so rapidly evolving, so rapidly changing that it's scary for me being a 1-0 pro, just starting the journey and knowing that like I can't think about MMA the way it is right now, and that when I'm envisioning my future being like that's how it's going to be, so prepare for that because it's going to change. So I just got to stay on like my toes and try to approach it from the same angle. Otherwise, like there's guys my age right now that are where I'm at that I know are still gonna be approaching it the way they are now, that I'm fucking licking my chops on, just like I'm gonna get you because I see how you're doing it. I'm gonna get you at some point.
He brought up a good point. That's something I talked to Brian about, and which is still phenomenal and stunning. He says his age. How old are you?
I am 20 years old. I will
20 years old with that knowledge.
I will be 21 in February.
There you go. So he'll be able to finally buy his first drink, which I'm sure you don't drink. If you do,
no.
But it's crazy the knowledge that you have and how much further you have to go. Because I'm 31 and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and then I'm hopefully when I plan on taking my first amateur fight this year, and I'll have Zach and Brian in my corner, to really push me through and have that technical aspect of listening, and I'm sure Brian won't be like, just get up.
Get the fuck up. Go.
Get off the ground. I'm already afraid. Your time.
So hit your time, Billy.
Go.
You got this.
Fight through it. But so I admire that you have that much knowledge, and at the age of 20, especially. Do you think, do you in your corner sit down and watch film or anything, or is it just kind of like?
We try to as best we can. I love sitting down and getting the opinions of my cornermen as much as I can. I'm at such a young point in my career, and the talent that I'm being pitted against doesn't require an insane amount of thought or depth to it. At some point I'd just be overthinking it.
He said You're all fucking bums.
Yeah.
Whoa, I'm coming for
talented.
You. So I do. I go to them and I say, hey, what are you thinking on this? And as long as I know we're within the same frequency for right now, it's gonna work out. And I have faith in my coaches and cornermen that I'm on the path to success. And I feel like when I do go to my cornermen for something specific, it's because I have some kind of anxiety over an angle of the fight that I haven't prepared for, and I just want to get their opinion. And I feel like as the talent I'm going against starts to stack up, there's going to be more points of anxiety that I'm going to have to address with them, and from their experience, from their level of experience and understanding of MMA, want to sit down and solve. Right now, there's not a lot to worry about. I know the path that I'm on and what I'm doing is enough. Now I always want to surpass that. I always want to think about the next fight and the fight after that, and so on and so forth, which I constantly am, and that's just what happens when you train every day. But I get their advice as much as I can, but at some point I know I'm beating a dead horse. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
Especially right now. Maybe the next fight I'll have an opponent with a little more dynamic game behind him, that it's a more complex technical problem we got to approach.
Okay. So your current fight that you have coming up, you don't feel that way?
I feel prepared.
Okay.
I feel like I'm doing the necessary steps, and there's anxieties, but it's not something that I necessarily will solve from going to my cornerman about film or
being
going to my cornerman.
Hey, what do I do about this?
It just comes from the preparation.
Yeah.
How I'm actually thinking through the process. For me, a big one is just ingraining the opening start of a fight, which is something that not a lot of people do, is just practicing that first 30 seconds, because that first 30 seconds, the biggest
part of it.
Yeah, that
it's
first
huge.
30 seconds can have major implications of how the rest of the fight goes.
Yeah.
So for me, I just want to make sure that whatever tone I'm setting in the first 30 seconds is the tone I want to carry throughout the rest of the fight. And for me, that's something that right now I know I haven't been doing enough of. And today, when I get a chance, I'll pull a bag out and just envision that first 30 seconds. And that's something I'll go to my cornerman and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Is this what like you would agree with? And then those are the conversations that are had. Yeah. We're both coming at this problem with a solution, and then coming to a middle ground, or sometimes we're in agreement.
You guys are both bringing things to the table.
If you're a fighter,
not like you're just sitting there at the table waiting to be fed.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge issue with so many people. Like, not even in fighting, like anything.
Yeah,
they have a problem and they want to go to somebody with more experience and just say, what do I do? And it's like, well, I don't even know what you're thinking to do. So how can I help you through this? Like, I can just tell you an answer, but now you don't know why. You just know that's the answer.
And it might not be the best answer for you.
Yeah, but if we
that might be the best answer for me. That's just what I just fired from the hip.
Yeah, if we both come with a solution, then we can both give each other our whys and both learn something from it and come up with an even better answer.
Yeah.
Which to me, that's the process I have. I usually get a fight. My coach's Grant usually watches it before I even do, and I'll watch it, and then I'll say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and be like, well, this is what I'm thinking, and then we fall somewhere within the middle, maybe more lenient to his side, more lenient to my side, whatever it is, and there's confidence within that. Yeah. Whereas, like, I couldn't imagine going into a fight without a cornerman. Like, I know I can do it. It's just, why would you want to?
Fuck that.
Why would you want to?
We've seen a couple times. We've seen a couple times someone shows up with no corner.
Why would you want to?
My favorite is when they show up with no cup.
Oh, God.
That's the best. Yeah. That's when you know you got a specimen on your hands.
Yeah, just coming in to brawl.
And you're just like, oh, fuck, where'd they get you?
That's not planning for the future at its finest.
Yeah, that's definitely not planning for the future.
They're not just thinking about the 5 minutes, 15 minutes ahead of them in terms of the fight. They're not thinking about the next 4 years, 15 years.
Yeah, no. There's a lot they're not considering there.
Yeah.
So speaking of your next fight, let's plug it up. Let's talk about that. Who are you fighting? Where are you fighting? When are you fighting?
I'm fighting February 7th at Harris Casino.
Okay.
It's blue corner. Blue
corner against Wayne Collier. The reason why I say it like that is because I've also seen Philip Collier. I don't know. I just know what he looks like, and hey, that's who I'm fighting.
Yeah.
He's I want to say 0-2, 0-4. I don't know. There's a lot of inconsistent sources for his record. I think he was 4-3 as an amateur. Tall, lengthy, kind of throws with a lot of power. Mm-hmm. Just because it seems like that's all how he really knows how to do.
Yeah.
He fought a teammate of mine on Shamrock and lost.
Who is that?
Johnny Eblin, who trains at Top Team, but he kind of cross-trains back and forth. Good friend of mine. Johnny's a big, powerful wrestler.
Bellator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Johnny
Thomas's brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny came out.
His brother's in jiu-jitsu here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Johnny came out, stayed real patient, took a shot, got him down, and then just started landing big punches. And Wayne, Phillip, whatever his name is, eventually ended up submitting.
To punches?
To the strikes, yeah. Which to me has massive implications.
Yeah, that's a good sign for you.
It's another interesting problem to solve. You have a tall, lengthy body that wants to throw with just power. So the way you enter in the pocket has to be very particular. The way you're throwing your strikes has to be particular. You don't necessarily have to worry about a lot of technical engagements, but you can at least prepare for, something. It's that process. I don't know. Fighting the tall, lengthy guys, I've never enjoyed, but I've fought a lot of tall, lengthy guys. Yeah. And every time I'm always like, another one?
Yeah, my first fight, dude was 6'2". I was like, what the fuck is this? Right. Yeah, telling me this guy made 140?
Right. Yeah, and it's a fun technical problem to try to solve. Being the shorter fighter, going against the taller fighter. And then not only that, the tall fighter isn't a technical fighter; he's a brawl swinger.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for that range, and then how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for those awkward strikes?
Yeah.
Which to me is it's another fun technical problem to solve. But I'm confident I got a good plan for it.
Nice. you need tickets, you hit up Mr. John OBrien. Should probably start wrapping up. We got people.
Yeah,
from
we
the
should
gym
wrap up,
rolling
John.
in.
We're gonna have you back when we have more time. There's so many more questions I have about your business.
For sure, yeah. I feel like we just
Yeah.
scratched the surface here.
You know, I want to talk about your health regimen and because we know that
Your
you
functional
prep food.
patterns, all the things.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna have to please come back sooner than later. Let's try to knock it out. Well, he has another fight coming up, so I guess we have to. We'll have to make sure you have time coming.
Well, yeah, we can do it after his fight. We can do it after his fight.
This is true. I'll be full and happy.
Yeah, he can hit his fight. We can talk about his fight, talk about future, talk about all kinds of stuff.
Some longboards.
It'd be perfect.
Okay.
Some longboards, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Well, there you have it.
All right, guys. We're out of here. John, you want to send us off? Say bye to the people?
Peace out, y'all.
You're supposed to say love, peace, chicken grease.
I'm my own person.
You guys say love,
Bye.
peace, chicken grease.
I'm my own person.
He says bye.